Welcome back to Good Morning LaLa, and I'm so excited to welcome to the show some of the genius behind the other F Word series, Caytha Jentis. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Well, thank you for having me.
So what is the
I came the furthest, by the way.
All the way from New York to La La Land.
What is the other F word?
Yeah, well, the other F word is a sort of comedic series, and the F stands for many things. Originally, because it was that unspoken word of 50.
Wait, what was that?
50, yeah. Turning 50, but I was saying, fortunately, 40s also is another F word, so you could sort of,
So fantastic.
you still have that sort of, like saying the pivoting. But no, I wanted to I'm a filmmaker, an independent filmmaker, looking to be a dependent filmmaker, which is what I say.
It's interesting, right?
Exactly.
But award-winning at that.
Oh, yes, I am award-winning.
incredible.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. So we all have awards. I was, I think, the most improved something at one point in my life. So, but anyway, yeah. So it's a comedic show that is kind of like the flip side of Girls, which I kind of said I wanted to do. I was like watching Girls, going, all right, these are like these people in their 20s trying to figure their whatever, I don't know what our language barrier is, so figuring their lives out. And then I was like, oh, but here we are, their parents, we've just sent them off to Brooklyn, or wherever you do that out here. And then you go, now I'm figuring who am I? So I kind of want to do a coming of age sort of story, like you sort of had Girls, Sex and the City, and then there was this new space of coming of age, and and that's what I do think we're sort of figuring out who we are and
Well, that's
fits and
brilliant
starts.
because what the stats are something like the population is 50% of our population is over 50. Is that correct in America? So you've got a great audience that's going through a lot
And
of
they
stuff.
have a lot of money, by the way. And they influence a lot of people. To the older, like we put our parents and our children in homes. So
But you influence a lot of people. Good Housekeeping said you were one of the 50 over 50.
yes, I was 50 over 50. I like to call myself a bad influencer. But,
That
that's my
sounds way
hashtag.
more fun.
Yeah.
So what does being a bad influencer mean to you?
No, I mean, it is like living fearlessly, because that's what I feel like the thing about midlife, which is that sort of call to action, is like, it's now or never, and like, we all depend on first impressions, and I feel like, well, everybody knows me, so what difference does it make what I do? They've already made their first impression, so you can kind of do whatever you want. And so that's kind of, it's this living fearlessly, because I think it's like, my sort of hashtag is like, it's like no fear, no regrets, because I always think, okay, when I'm like super old, what am I going to regret more, doing it or not doing it?
So true.
And also, like, bad choices usually make the best stories. So I feel like if
I
it doesn't
love
kill
that.
you, do it.
I
And
live
if
by
it does
that.
kill you, it's a good, somebody at your funeral will tell that story. So
I love that. It is interesting, though. Don't you think that I experience the same thing? I'm 46, and I feel like life is so much easier.
Yeah.
So much easier than in the 20s, and you just kind of learn to love yourself and accept yourself, and you're like, well, if you don't like that, that's your problem, not mine. I'm just
Yeah.
going to keep going here. So what do you think the humor is, the most humor? If there's a kind of, you distill down 40s and 50s, what is the biggest kind of thing that the women are going through?
Well, I mean, I think they're all going, I mean, the catalyst, the story, because I wanted to do in the feminist space, it's 4 different women going through different journeys. And the main story is this woman, Amy, who's a stay-at-home mom. So she kind of defined herself by her children, her spouse, and then her kids all go to school. She's an empty nester. And a friend, it's always like this random person who just like drops dead of heart attack. And you're like, wait, he died? So, which becomes the catalyst for her husband's midlife crisis, which I wanted it to be, because usually you're like, oh, wait, what are they going to say at my funeral? And people get that call to action. And I had him join the Peace Corps, because I didn't want to have a show that was driven by a woman, main story, looking for a replacement guy. So I wanted it to be she's finding herself. So it's not so much like, okay, I've been defined by my children and my husband and my friends, and now, like, to this, it's like I get to be me, and to what other people on the show have been talking about. It's that authentic self, and that's what it's kind of this searching for. And it kind of, my sort of theme question was like, you have this sort of happily married couple that met young, and they're comfortable completing each other's sentences, and it's like this time where you have to learn to complete your own sentence, and that's, I think, just applies. And the thing that was interesting when I first did, I was like, okay, will this character, and then her other friends have different funny journeys too, but will it resonate? You know, because she's sort of a reactive character. And what was really neat for me from doing all the market research and going in the grassroots is like, even though her story wasn't exactly other people, they were just saying, oh, there's situations in my life where I've had to like sort of pivot and be faced with these things. It was nice to see her sort of, it is like a true like journey of self-discovery. And again, to my disrupt aging thing, it's like fun never gets old. Like that's to me, if you just, that's one of my things. So
That's the best tagline.
Yeah.
It is. What would you say are some of the green flags along the way to discovering your true self or your authentic self?
Wait, the green self is, the
Like
green flag is a
like-
good one, right?
Yeah,
That's
that'd be
not the
a good
red
one,
flag,
not a red
right?
flag. Yeah, what are some of like the, like auspicious signs? Like how do you know you're tapped into your authentic self as, versus something that is your inauthentic self?
I would like to say that the anxiety is gone, but I'm not sure that's the right way to say it.
Maybe it's less. Maybe less. Yeah.
I know, I went to the therapist. I'm like, I'm in LA, I'm married, I've got this whole crew. And she goes, and what's wrong with that? I'm like, I don't know, but why do I say I'm really excited? Got a good life here, a good life there. She goes, no, I think, I mean, I do think it is in that sort of Maslow's pyramid and everything. It's going on that journey, and I think you just feel it.
It's a feeling, huh?
Yeah, and I think that's what we are, and that I do feel like too. Marketers get kind of caught up in the whole demographic thing, where I call it like the Bernie Sanders effect. I feel like if your ideology is connects with other people, your message, like people don't really look at your skin, your age, your anything. It's just, and that's where I feel like you're finding your inside. And it's also towards vulnerability. And I think the vulnerability is the thing that makes us magic and finding our secret powers, but it's a scary place. And I just think being a little bit afraid in the fearless space is part of how you're finding your authentic self.
Yeah, it's like a confident kind of vulnerability.
Yeah.
Love that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you
It
for
is
sharing that.
interesting. I think it's such a fascinating time, though, and I think that ageism will be probably the next hashtag
Yeah.
movement
Yeah.
online, and I'm ready to take that one on. So.
All right.
Erin wants to be the first.
Well, I'm with you. I mean, to that, because when we sort of started, I did run into a lot of the red flags on that. And it's a law. It is an uphill battle in the whole in being invisible, which I think starts for women pretty like earlier than you'd want it to, and I do think it's changing. I think the tide's changing. It's really nice that a lot of celebrities and people like Madonna and Sandra Bullock and Reese Witherspoon and Nicole, like they're like talking about it, and I feel like we are aging differently than other generations. We're living longer, and that's what I feel like. It's all about to all these women. It's like it's just to the authentic self. It's like you don't have to act young. You don't have to. You just be you.
Yeah.
And that's why I think the more you are you, and that's what I tell when I talk to screenwriters. It's like the universal comes from the individual. So the more you are yourself and your voice comes out, that's what people will find themselves in it. So I do think it is the next up there, and I do see the tides changing. It is. I started this project, digitally. Because people are like, well, that's a tough demographic. And I'm like, I don't understand.
Why would it be a tough?
Well, but that was just code word for ageism. But the point is the thing is, it's changing. And like I said, for me, like I was out here because, I have this, our show is like getting packaged now to go like through the front door. And that's really exciting. And I do think people don't talk about it really at all the way they did 3 years ago. They're like, this is just what your show's about. And what makes it the thing that's going to stand out, it's not like it becomes a green flag, not the red flag. So it is, I think we're on the way.
For sure. The truth is that we're immortal. We're not these bodies, we're not our sex, we're not our age, we're not whatever. We are powerful spiritual beings, and that's the truth. And it's so awesome, your conversation, and to make humor of it, make light of it, and have fun with it.
Yeah, and that we're still alive. And to that, like I was laughing on the unboxing, because the thing that's really funny, because again, my show is just very organic in real life, but I also want to show like we are still sexual beings, because that's what I feel like in the Me Too moment, like you're either effable or you're not. And when you're not, it's just psh, and then like you get creeped on. So I was like, all right, but we still are. There's nothing wrong with being a sexual being and a sexual person if you want to be, and there is all this good health to that. So the thing that's very funny on my show is looking for sponsors product, which that's not, like, they're giving no discount, but I get a lot of free. I mean, they probably could. No,
Yeah.
Adam and Eve, the sex toy company, was a sponsor of my show because a blogger was like, oh, they're looking to reach a new demographic. And I'm like, and they go, well, my mother follows me. I don't want to get like the sex toys. I'm like, I don't have a problem with sex toys.
Well,
So-
there you go. Fun never gets old.
Yeah, that's where it was part of my fun never gets old. And we did there's a funny scene with like these uptight suburban moms doing one of those, passion parties. So I basically have like a lifetime supply
That
of
is
sex
hilarious.
toys. And I
Good to
did
know,
do an
good to know.
unboxing video on YouTube with my two friends when we were unboxing. So yeah, so that's, and I basically, they're like, you need any more products? So
Wow.
The new F is AF, as they say, right? Sexy AF.
There you go.
Okay? That's
Yes.
all.
Oh, that was pretty good, Erin. That was pretty good. Tell everyone where they can find and follow your journey. So we can
yeah, so my name, Caytha, like you're blessed and cursed with a name like Caytha. So it's like Caytha. So I can get that with an email or an Instagram, even though it's a real name, my parents changed the spelling. And then, there's the Other F Word and the Other F Word series. It currently is, the web series is on The Girlfriend. I actually did a partnership with AARP because I went to them. I'm like, you should care about us, and they are influencers in this space, and we're disrupting aging together, and they're partners with me as we move up. And they have this new platform called The Girlfriend, which is totally for the Gen X, and it's pretty edgy and interesting. So my show now lives, the web series version of it lives on thegirlfriend.com, and we're moving up to take it bigger and better. Or not better.
Fantastic.
It's already great, but it'll be different and bigger.
Well, we're excited.
Bigger budget.
We're excited to follow the journey. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank
Stay
you.
tuned. We'll be back with more in Good Morning La La Land.